Welcome back, everybody.
Hi.
Hi there. TGIF, right? Or TSIF, Experience Friday. So, yesterday was around mind fullness, and today is around mindlessness. And there was dialogue yesterday around we don't ever want to empty our mind. You know, there's a Buddhist construct of being of no mind, and it's not about being out of our mind, but being open, so that the other general distractions that we generally carry are not interfering. I like that last phrase on that first paragraph. It says, awareness is literally a process of disillusion. There are certain cultures that believe that everything is an illusion. And it's to pay attention to the spaces between the slices of light. As my teacher says. So we ended yesterday with that witness meditation, where we simply observed the things and as they passed us by, our thoughts as they passed us by, the image, the sound, the emotion. I heard one of us speak about having to recycle through a couple of versions of a similar thing before it went by, and that's okay. So we learned to develop practices, and that which was offered yesterday was just another tool, another mechanism to pursue being of no mind. Not necessarily mindless, but... So we learn to develop mechanisms or practices, and yes, plural, so that we have the ability to be of service, to be able to share our gift. So how many of us here have our one go-to method of getting still, getting quiet, getting out of our mind? One. Do you have another? Do you have a backup?
Yeah.
How about a backup to your backup?
Yeah.
So it's been beneficial for me. Early on when I started meditating, it was simply just focusing on my breath. And I got to a place where that wasn't working. I would sit and breathe, and my mind would go. And I'm like, oh man, how much longer is this going to take? So couldn't tell you where it was offered to me, but that practice that was offered yesterday was just let your mind have its free will. Let it off the leash. Let it run. And I remember the setting where that was offered, but I can't. It was probably 1998, 1999. So I was really grateful for that because I gave it permission to just follow that path and then go. And I also would, have to cycle through. And then depending on how I am in my body, sometimes even that doesn't. I go to my go-to, which is my breath. I go to my backup with that witness. And sometimes that doesn't even work. I've got a lot going on, or I'm feeling ill. Maybe I'm on medication, and it's got me in a different space. For me, YouTube has been beneficial because there's a ton of meditations on there, and for me personally, guided meditations with words distract me. They just add to the thought, the thinking. There's various ones with specific frequencies that I listen to, depending on where I am in my body. So I offer those to you, and particularly I offer the inspiration to find a backup way to clear your mind, and then a backup to the backup. Yeah, so we might find that a mechanism that we use, and we might be in a state that one day doesn't work, might not be as effective. So has anyone ever encountered a resistance or a struggle in that? How many of us have been watching a movie or whatever, something on TV, and then become aware that our bodies hold tension?
Oh God, yes.
I caught myself, was watching MMA when it was early on. I don't watch it anymore. It's just not drawn to it now. But I caught myself in that tension, and I knew that didn't feel good. I was in that conflict that I was witnessing. So I started meditating while I was watching MMA. And it got me back into my body, the breath work. It allowed me to witness something that was energetic without being in that energy. And that may be beneficial for you. There may be someone that comes in with a lot of noise or a lot of energy, and it might be overpowering. So, getting in touch with our body and having a familiarity and a knowing, a deep sense for what works for us is huge and highly beneficial. And then for those instances where we can't do that, where we can't go home and get in that quiet space and somebody calls us and we're called to go be of service, and we're going from our daily activity and whatever energetics we were involved in there to get out of the mind, to clear the space for that, whether it's a driving meditation or a little ceremony, if you will, so that we can be fully present and in tune with our bodies. Like Michelle was saying earlier, being so familiar with how we feel or what we think might be a distraction. It's always good to reassess. Okay, where am I today? I know there are times when my hands, I lose feelings in my hand, and so the sensation is not there, and so okay. Generally, on the palms of my hands, where I sustained a lot of injury, but the back, I can still feel. So if I'm going to feel something, I'll use the back of my hand. I know that okay, I'm not feeling with my palms, so let me. Or when I smell, sometimes my sense of smell is off. I will open my mouth. I will walk outside and I smell with my mouth wide open. So each of us are story keepers. We generate stories based on our life experience. Some stories hold us in a place of limitation. When we pay attention and explore those thoughts, often we see there are stories or judgments. There are projections. I experienced this. I spoke to it a little bit yesterday as a part of the human condition or human conditioning from our life experience. A lot of times those stories come from our desire to be safe. So what we get in touch with is that sense of fear, to derive that desire to be safe. So we create these belief systems out of that. And so yesterday I asked you about just becoming aware of the thoughts and the stories associated. So I'm going to ask you to revisit that list of thoughts, or perhaps whatever thoughts you're having now, whatever current thoughts that are going on for you. But I want to go to a concept that I'm pretty sure you're all familiar with, and it is that beginner's mind. Comes from Zen Buddhism, and that is a fundamental practice of dropping the expert mind and letting go of expectations. Audrey mentioned yesterday about not having expectations about our interaction with who we're working with. And another thing that I've heard in the near distant past was that expectations are preconceived resentments. So if I set an expectation about whatever my endeavor is, my interaction is, it's already not going to come true. I could put that willful intention in place, and by God, that's going to happen. Or maybe I get some help that's coming to make that happen. So that idea of the beginner's mind is releasing any preconceived notion of the outcome and embracing the possibility that I have more to learn. So I would invite us for all to say that. And I can write it on the board if I need to, but there's not a marker.
Marker's right.
Marker's over there?
And then you just take
Do I need?
down.
You want me to write it?
Yep. Good. Trying to cheat?
Everybody's trying to cheat? Couldn't see around me or peeking around me?
No. But in this room, nobody's seen that.
Peeking? Was you peeking? So if everyone's willing, collectively, I release any preconceived notion of the outcome and embrace the possibility that I have more to learn. Om. So opening myself to curiosity and wonder places a new lens on any activity. Perhaps seeing details that I might not normally see otherwise or have not seen in the past. So embracing that beginner's mind and putting on those new lenses and coming from a place of curiosity, can we go to that list of thoughts from yesterday? Yeah. So oftentimes when we have those expectations or resentments, or we're mindful or aware that someone is not behaving in a way that I want them to, we then make up a story. I speak to it in this, that we're all story keepers. We all have our life experience, but that's part of the human mind, is we want to assign meaning. We have an awareness, and we want to assign meaning to it. So we make up story about our experience. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes we make up stories about ourselves. There's an opportunity to further explore from that place of the beginner's mind, explore those crooks and nannies. Still, one laugh, one chuckle. To see where the energy is residing in our body. And what? Yuck.
I was gonna give him one, but he caught me.
It's all good. So I give a little example here about a child playing in the yard, and they see a red car crash into a tree, and they see a red fire truck show up with the bright light and blaring siren. And they associate their experience with the color red, and deems red as loud, scary, and dangerous, or not safe. You know. So then that child grows up and engages the world from that perspective. You know. It's incumbent upon us to, in our process of clearing the mind, is to hunt out those nooks and crannies where those self-limiting belief systems reside. And so oftentimes when we experience that anger, that pissed offness, it's because we're not having a need met, or that we think that something we have is going to be taken from us. And we associate, like I said, we're all still, we might not do it consciously, but subconsciously or unconsciously, we make up a story that's just, oh, I'm not going to get what I want. The invitation is to just gain an awareness and a shift in perspective around what stories we're creating and belief systems that come out of those stories. And particularly, like the intention I presume here, I'm making up a story, is that we're all going to engage with people in an exchange of service, in an exchange of healing. And there may be times when, like I said, I may be on medication, I'm not feeling well, or I've got a story playing. And how to develop mechanisms. First, gain the awareness, and then shift from that awareness into our body, and use whatever mechanisms to let go of the noise.
Well, as you're talking about, there are days that you're not feeling well. But the thing is you also have to be careful with thought, because the more you dwell on you not feeling well, the worse you feel throughout the day. So if you lose that thought of not feeling well, it's like before you know it, it's like you're fine.
Or if I have the thought or put the energy into, in this moment, I have an energy that may not be the best. I now choose to feel better, to use our mind, manifest that positive intention. Certainly there are conditions, like certainly if you had some walnuts, or ate something with walnuts, and it's going to affect you pretty seriously. Well, you've got some things to address that, but how do you address if that transpires right before you're supposed to meet somebody? Let go of the story about whatever, about whoever cut me off, or my being reactive instead of responsive. Allow myself permission to be human and have this human experience to say, dagnabbit, I got caught up in that, and now I'm course correcting. I'm getting back to the here and now. DAGNABBIT.
She can't.
Do I go to that place of that curiosity, that beginner's mind, or tap into that energy, that essence, and go, okay, what is this trying to tell me? Or am I focusing, is this demanding my attention and taken away from being present. So if or when I become aware of a belief system in place that limits an aspect of who I am or what I do, I can apply that curiosity to explore. For example, I might have the belief in the moment, I don't have enough time to do all the things I need in a day. So I can explore that the parameters or the construct of there are different aspects in that statement. I can explore the construct of time, or I can look at the possession aspect. I don't have enough time to do all the things I need. I can look at that aspect. I can get to that place of curiosity and go, what is my belief system around that? And is there something underlying? Whether it's part of my body that's causing a distraction or feeding that message. Or I could explore the doing aspect of that. So from that place of curiosity, I begin with a breath. I move from that place of reactive to being responsive. In that place of breath. I remember about mid to late 90s, I was working with a guy, and I could see when something was coming up on him, he would get the scrunchy face. Yeah. And I would see him taking an exaggerated breath, and I'm like, what in the world is he doing? That was a beautiful teaching piece for me. First, when we're driving our vehicle down the road and something happens, what's the first thing to do? Take your foot off the gas. Take a breath. Take your foot off the gas. Take a breath. And then I check in with my body for each idea. So if I want to explore the construct of the time or not having enough of it, or the need aspect, I check in with my body and I become aware of the sensations that present themselves. And I open myself up to a clear message. And I apply that beginner's mind with a new lens, looking for the details. Be surprised in engaging an activity as such that support doesn't show up or help from our guides. They're there, they're present with us. They're not on coffee break or watching ethereal novellas or anything. So when we get in that place of curiosity, I want to explore what is this trying to teach me? What's underlying here? And we ask for clarity. Be in tune with our bodies and aware of the sensations and the messages. Is this coming from me or coming from elsewhere? And then I continue. It's an ongoing process of become aware. Okay, is this message from me? Clearly, okay. What's underneath that, and what is my idea that I'm making up around the story I'm making up around not having enough? Is that a sense of lack? It's just an exploration of where our thoughts lead us, and the stories, and perhaps the emotions that are all intertwined with everything. So, more details, until we get a place where a sense of, is this the bottom line? Is this the root source of the message? Or is this a further doorway for me to explore. And, to the language, which leads us into this next piece, which was offered on the thing about tonight, the opportunity to generate a personal mantra to assist in the release of self-limiting belief. So if things aren't naturally flowing for me in my life, it's likely that there's a repetitive or a limiting belief that is blocking. So the first step is to identify it.
Is what?
Is to identify
Okay. The limiting belief.
the limited belief.
How do you do that?
So what am I not getting or doing, or am I making up how do I complete this sentence? I am not, or I don't have, or I can't. Is there any aspect of that that dwells?
It's all negative.
It's all negative.
Pardon?
It's all negative. That's all your brain hears.
Right, but is there any, I'm asking, is there any of that you can identify with for you personally? Is there, can you complete that sentence in any aspect of what's going on in your mind? Yeah.
Yeah, I am not a man. Or I'm not tall.
So here's the second step. So you've identified it. What do you want instead?
To be thinner. Stay a woman. I want to be thinner. Well, they can't be tall, then the body should match.
So the exploration of that from that place of the beginner's mind, I am not a man, as you said. If I went, I'm not a woman. Do you want to be? No. But is there an aspect of you that is not, that wants to be? Me, in touch with my feminine side, I like to decorate the left side of my body. I got an earring here, ring, and a bracelet, and I intentionally placed it on the left side. My daughter gave me this ring, but it is from James Avery, and the ring is called Kai, which is water, which is feminine. So I keep it the feminine aspect on my right. It's the story. The piece around wanting more masculine, specifically around the assertiveness. So the thing that we identify our self-limiting belief, I'm not assertive enough. I'm not assertive like a man. It's whatever that limits me, whatever thought that comes up, and we put a stake in the ground and say, look, this is the truth. And the opportunity is to shift that. So we identify it, what that limiting belief is, and then what is it that we want? So out of that statement, is there something you want? Do you want to be assertive? Generate a mantra that you can restate to yourself, and it's phrased in the present. It's a positive statement and a positive affirmation in the present, and it might be some version of it's usually I am, or I create, or I love, or I have. So it might be some version of I love the way I speak my voice and I am heard.
That's nice.
Or some whatever words are applicable for you. Yeah. So it's essentially it's a positive affirmation that we incorporate as needed into a daily practice, a meditation. We identify the quality, what we want, the limiting belief, what we want, and we identify the qualities, and we make that into a short, concise statement. You said earlier something to the effect of, I have the courage to do something. And maybe we factor that down to, I am courageous. Boom. It's for whatever each individual, and it can change. And if you were or move to, if that instance arises again, and you're called to tap into that courage. Maybe even taking it to the next step and saying, I love how I am heard and understood. The shorter and more concise and clear, when with the intention of using it as a mantra or something, the better. Short, concise, positive, present statement. Something that
So
we
then
can
I'll
use.
go home and write one tonight. You're gonna help us clarify them tomorrow?
I'm willing.
Okay.
Yeah. That is, if no one else has anything, that's about all I got. So the tiger's eye.
Oh, the tiger's eye, yeah.
Oh, I'm feeling the hope that Rosie brings.
The teaching that came to me around tiger's eye, a man gifted me. It was a beautiful, large piece, multifaceted. It was a stone for clarity, is what I was told. So I offer that as a giveaway to help with clarity for each of you, for all of us.
It's also one of the protector stones and one of the grounding stones.
Right.
See, when I got this, it was fine. I can see you.
I see you.
I see you.
Thank you for our stone.
You're welcome.